Hi, I'm Terry Pellman, and I'd like to talk today about why writing is important to me and some of the things I keep in mind when doing so. Now, I just like to write fiction primarily, and I found out that I liked writing fiction when I was a junior in high school, and we had a long-term substitute teacher come in and for our English class. And one of his assignments was for us to write a short story. And I wrote a story about a group of fellows who just graduated from high school. They lived down in Florida. And off the coast were some little tiny islands that had never really been claimed as part of the U.S. territory. So just as something to do for the summer, before they started college, they claimed one of these islands as their own little independent nation. And they spent the summer going out with their boat, going out to spend some time on their little island nation. But every time there was a high tide, their nation went underwater. And when the summer came to an end, they went off to college, had a good laugh about it all, and looked back on that summer as just a pleasant memory. Well, that simple little exercise in writing really got me hooked. And then throughout college, I dabbled with writing a little bit, even some poetry, but fiction writing was really where my heart is. And my English literature studies in college just deepened my interest in writing. Well, then after college, later got married, and I still dabbled some in short story writing, and then we had children, and I still would from time to time do some writing, and lots of starts and stops, but they were always valuable because it kept me in that mode. Even though they didn't really turn into anything, it was good for me. See, writing gives you freedom. It lets you go to another place at another time whenever you need for it to. Writing allows you to express your feelings, to deal with things that are making you happy, things that are bothering you, just questions you may have about anything. That's why writing is important, and it's something that belongs just to you. See, when you write, what you write, you own. It is yours and no one else's. If you're writing just for your own pleasure, maybe just to share something with friends and family, that's great. Or if you want to write for something that you want other people to read outside of the family and friends, that's great too. But it's yours. And that's one reason why writing can be so therapeutic. And one thing to remember is that when you write, you're just telling a story. Don't let other people tell you that you shouldn't write this, you shouldn't write that. If you write a story that has some nasty behavior, violence in it, as I have done, that doesn't mean I'm proposing that people should go out and commit mayhem on the rest of society. Or if you write a story that contains what maybe people would call immoral behavior, you're not saying people should go out and live that way. Now, I do have my boundaries. I don't like certain obscene language. I don't like it in my everyday life, and I don't put it into my writing. That's a personal preference. I have a bias against vulgar language. If I want to make a point, whether it's in conversation or in my writing, I want to make a point by my reasoning and my thought process that I'm putting forth. I don't want to get people's attention by a vulgar word. I feel that is intellectual laziness. But that's a personal bias of mine. I don't want someone to be reading one of my stories and all of a sudden be distracted from the greater meaning of what I'm writing because they were put off or distracted by a vulgar word. That's just part of my style. But remember, as a fiction writer, you're just telling a story. You don't have any responsibility for how other people go out and live their lives. You want to craft something interesting that maybe takes people away from their everyday life and provide them with something that's funny or surprising, or even make them say, gee whiz, I'm glad I'm not in that situation. I'm glad I'm not in that danger. Or I'm glad I never began to live my life in that way. That's your freedom as a writer. And people say to me, gee, I think I have a book inside of me. I always say, then put it down into words. You don't want to go through life with that regret of having not written something you would really like to write and to express yourself. Okay? If you have a book inside of you, make sure you write it. I've never heard anyone say, gee, I wish I could take back all that time I spent writing. Thanks for watching, and please look up my books on Amazon.com in ebook and paperback by me, Terry Pellman. Thanks again.